Is XRP even needed? This is the question that we're going to ask and talk about here in today's video. Very important discussion. I got a few data points that I want to get through, and then we're going to get right on into it. This was an interview that the president of Ripple, Monica Long, just did with Frank Chaparro from The Block. And she said something very interesting, you know, basically distinguishing with their clients in the payments business on some corridors, some payment networks where XRP, a bridge currency, isn't necessarily needed. And when this was said, you know, I took a step back and I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. You're not allowed to say that, right? You can't say XRP is not needed, right? But it's true. And we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. And we need to understand this. We can't just delusionally think that all the money's coming to the XRP ledger and that every payment's going to be settled on XRP. That's not the world that we live in. That's not the world that we're going to live in. And it's just not needed. It's not needed either for XRP. It doesn't negate the fact that XRP price is still not going to go up and the value proposition and our thesis for XRP isn't still correct. It is. We're just getting more clarity as time goes on, as Ripple's business matures, as they speak with more and more payment banks, institutions. We get to get a clear picture of the role of XRP and areas where XRP is not needed and not going to be used. And that's important. We need to be subjective to our own thesis. We need to try to poke holes in our own thesis. And that's what I try to do. I've been trying to do it for XRP for the last 5-6 years that I've owned this thing. I try to do it with all my investments, including silver. You know, I try to do it with my business. All of my theses that I hold, I'm, constantly trying to question them, poke holes in them, and make sure that I actually have good, solid reasoning for maintaining those theses and those ideas. We got to be willing to question ourselves. So without further ado, folks, let's get right on into it now. A lot of politics in the last 24 hours. I don't know about you. I'm ready to take a break for the next week or so. I'm good on the politics. I got my fill of politics over the last 24 hours. But I just wanted to say this, share this one from Peter Schiff. During this debate, there was not a single question about the exploding national debt and the ticking time bomb of a sovereign debt and US dollar crisis. No one at CNN has any idea how serious this problem is. That's one reason why they were selected to host the debate. Now, this is really all I wanted to say, is that no matter who gets elected, as I continue to say, inflation is baked into the cake, because there's two options to get out of this debt and currency crisis. You either inflate your way out, or you default. You admit that we're bankrupt and bust, and Social Security's not getting paid, Medicare, your cuts to entitlements, and that's the default path. Nobody wants to go that. It's a huge political risk, liability. Nobody wants to own up to that. The other option is to just inflate and pay and print your way to solve your way out of this crisis, which you don't solve your way out. You just make it worse. You prolong it. And basically, you confiscate the wealth of the country slowly. It's like a slow kill, soft kill. And that's what the situation is for the United States, no matter who gets elected, right? So that's what's important to understand. You guys can leave any comments you want on the debate down below, and I'll make sure to read those after the fact. Now, the market is back down this morning for crypto. Bitcoin back below 61,000. However, for the stock market, if we go to our S&P 500, it did go print a new all-time high this morning, $5,522. So $5,500 for the S&P 500. Stock market back up. Dow Jones back up, all the major indices. But we go back to our crypto and we see that Bitcoin back down. XRP been holding pretty strong, though. Very interesting to watch that one. 47, just under 48 cents right now for XRP. Let's continue. 94,000 job cuts this month, which I did some rough calculations. We're well over 557,000. I think I can round up from there. So about 560,000 jobs. Over 500,000 jobs have already been lost this year. We are on track to lose 1 million jobs this year. And the situation here, like I said, doesn't matter who gets elected in November. We already have situations, we already have a snowball effect in play that's not good. It doesn't get any better between now and then. Even if the markets are thinking, oh, Trump's going to get elected, so the market's pumping or the market's reacting good. it's not stopping what's happening on the street. And what I'm talking about is situations like this, with Walgreens to close 2,150 stores, laying off roughly 57,000 employees. So this is one company laying off 57,000 employees. They say changes are imminent, but some of the specifics are still fluid. Wentworth said of the impending shutdowns, there's not one exact number of closures. They still don't know how bad it actually is. This is just the first acknowledgement that the situation's bad. We have to close 2,000 stores, lay off 50,000 people, but we still don't know if this is really the end, right? This is the state of the real economy. And obviously, there's multiple reasons why Walgreens, Rite Aids, these stores have struggled, with a lot of people now just getting Amazon to deliver their everyday essentials. And then there's a lot of competition in the pharmacy business as well, too. But nonetheless, not a good sign of our economy, not a good sign of what's taking place on the ground. Despite the stock market going to all-time high, like I said, the disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street continues to grow, and it only gets more clear from here. Now, somebody who's starting to see it a little bit more clear, I think, you guys let me know. BitBoy Crypto coming in here saying gold is a better long-term store of value than Bitcoin. Like, let's be honest. Which do you think will still be around in 500 years, gold or Bitcoin? One has been here since before humans existed, and the other was like made 16 or 17 years ago by an Anon. Now, so BitBoy is seeing the light. You guys let me know in the comments down below what is going to be a better store of value. And let's just go over the next 10 years. Yeah, I'm not here to talk about the next 500 years. Let's just go over the next 10 years. You guys let me know in the comments down below. Is gold or Bitcoin going to be a better store of value over the next 10 years? And if you're looking to pick up gold and silver, well, you know where to find it. ZachRector.com. Just go to the Precious Metals tab. We can deliver it directly to your door, or we can roll over a 401k retirement account and secure it. Now, the topic of today's discussion is XRP needed. The short answer, yes, but not in every case, not in every corridor. And this is important to understand. We don't want to just delusionally put on the XRP blinders and think that everything's got to be XRP. Not the case. And as this has progressed, I think that we've all kind of matured in our thesis. And you got to be willing to change. When new information is presented to you, you got to be able to say, okay, wow, I was wrong about something. And mostly what we've been wrong about is just the timeline. How quickly we thought the old world was going to accept this technology. How quickly the new technology in the new world was going to force its way in to taking over the existing system. And even in this interview, Monica Long, the president of Ripple, she actually speaks to that, about how they thought that this was going to happen faster as well. So it wasn't just us, it was Ripple themselves as well. We all thought that this was going to go a lot faster. We all thought that the lawsuit was going to be over. Here we are. So I'm going to play this clip, Frank Chaparro asking about the Ripple stablecoin and whether or not it's a competitor to XRP. And you can listen into Monica Long here real quick. I'm just going to play a couple minutes of this clip right here.
Of the sort of product suite that Ripple offers. They think of it as maybe being almost a competitor or sort of an alternative to a stablecoin. So what was the thinking? What sort of things can stablecoins do that XRP can't, and vice versa?
It's a great question. We think of them as complementary and additive. So I'll take two of the kind of customer sets or audience sets that we talked about, payment companies and then developers. In the context of payments and that part of our business, there are plenty of use cases where for the customer, actually seeing the transaction through in US dollars is what the customer wants, or it's just the most cost-efficient option. And when you think about major corridors like US dollar, euro, there's a lot of liquidity there. You don't really need a bridge asset like XRP. And that was the inventors of the ledger, the way that they'd always talked about. And, when I think back to the very early days of Ripple, what we had always talked about was the use case for a neutral cryptocurrency as a bridge asset. So like XRP in this case would be for in the future of the Internet of Value, there's be all kinds of things tokenized on chain. And you need an asset like that for really efficient cross-currency or cross-token settlement that are, it's more the long tail. Let me simplify it. It's more the long tail of assets and currencies where the costs, when you think in the context of cross-border payments, you have different currency crosses between, a sub-Saharan African country and the Middle East or Europe. And the liquidity is not as great. The costs are very high. You could pay, north of 10% on that in fees for a payment like that. So that's where we see XRP having its role. In the context of developers, as another group, the US dollar has been the on-ramp for our whole industry, right? It's like it's the starting point mostly for any kind of buying cryptocurrency or other type of tokenized asset. It's a starting point for trading. And that's where within XRP Ledger, and we still think there's so much more upside potential for the XRP Ledger's DEX, the decentralized exchange. There needs to be high quality stable coins available on that exchange for it to be more useful for all types of developers. And we've been more focused on DeFi. So you think about DeFi, USD stables are the key starting ingredient.
So what's important to understand, right? She said that you got highly liquid corridors like US dollar and euro, where XRP is not really needed. There's already plenty of liquidity. There's plenty of competition for that liquidity, and the fees have kind of been brought back down. Well, one thing I want to add to that, though, is even though there's liquidity there, you still have to pre-fund. And these are the Nostro Vostro accounts where they've locked up, 20 plus trillion. So the advantage to using a product like on-demand liquidity offered by Ripple would be the need to not have to pre-fund that liquidity, pre-fund those accounts. So despite the fact that you don't need XRP necessarily to be the bridge, you can use on-demand liquidity, which uses XRP, to remove the need to pre-fund. So you still have an advantage in using on-demand liquidity in XRP. She goes on then to talk about other corridors where there's not good liquidity, where you can pay fees up of 10%. That's where XRP thrives. That's where XRP shines. And really, because of the situation that we've been in the lawsuit in the United States, we haven't gotten a lot of traction in on-demand liquidity use in the United States and the broader West. We finally do have corridors in France, Sweden, Europe, the UK. Those have been fired up here recently. But because of that lawsuit, it's forced Ripple to go to these other jurisdictions where the XRP bridge currency solution is really, it thrives. Look at the partnership with On Afric, which they've changed their name now. I forget what they are, but they're a payments company in Africa that has corridors in 40 plus countries within that region. So as you're saying, sub-Saharan Africa and Europe or, Middle East, these are corridors where, an XRP bridge currency actually thrives, right? It is the best solution. The other thing that gets interesting, like to her point of we need more legitimate issuers, we need more stablecoins on the XRP Ledger DEX. This is what I've been saying. I've been saying we need someone who's legit to tokenize silver on the XRP Ledger. We need someone who's legit to tokenize gold on the XRP Ledger. We need a legitimate issuer for US dollars on the XRP Ledger. This is what Ripple is going to bring to the table. And this just brings more liquidity into the ecosystem, more ability to on-ramp into the ecosystem. Then once you're in the ecosystem, well, maybe then you want to change your US dollars for tokenized gold and back and forth. And maybe you want to be a trader. And so this is where I see the potential for the best liquidity to be on the XRP Ledger. Meaning that although, yes, there's very good liquidity already in corridors like US dollar and euro, it's going to be even better on the XRP Ledger. Now, and then like I said, if you remove the need to pre-fund, that's solving a $20 trillion, $30 trillion problem, depending on what the current numbers are running at right now for Nostro and Vostro accounts. And then the other thing to consider, I think that Ripple, what they're going to be doing here with this stablecoin is laying down the blueprint for other issuers. So, for example, somebody in the Eurozone can be a partner or can be an issuer that decides to issue euro dollars on the XRP ledger in a legitimate way. I've long speculated that SBI Holdings, right, out of Japan, that they would tokenize the Japanese yen on the XRP ledger, right? And I think the ultimate use case is creating the best liquidity in the world on the XRP ledger, so that even though you have corridors like USR and Euro where there's plenty of liquidity, the fees are going to be even lower and the speed of the transaction is going to be even faster on the XRP ledger. That's what's going to drive people. Versus, same thing for gold. You can go trade derivatives of gold on the stock market right now, right? There's all sorts of gold ETFs. You can go long, you can go short, and there's pretty decent liquidity there. But you can get even better liquidity on the XRP ledger. And that's what I think the main advantage here, the main value proposition, as far as bringing the liquidity on. The second aspect of this, and I'm going to be talking about this more in a separate video, is the ability for Ripple to back their US dollar, RLUSD, the ability for them to back it by XRP. I think that this is a very unique competitive advantage that Ripple has, where, Circle, we know what they're backing their Circle USDC by, right? They're backing it by treasuries and cash deposits. Well, Ripple's going to do the same thing. Treasuries on their balance sheet, cash on the balance sheet, and now they have standard custody with the New York license, where they can be the custodians for the stablecoin collateral, treasuries, cash. But the other interesting part is that Ripple has the XRP bag that can also back RLUSD. So for example, just like we've seen with the treasury market and our bond market having its worst year ever, I mean, bonds have had one of the worst, periods of time in their history over the past couple years. And the unrealized losses at the banks on some of these bonds is $500 billion on their investment securities. And so, once again, just because it sounds safe, right? The promise from the U.S. government that you give them money, they're going to pay you back for that, even if it's a short-term, 3-month, 6-month T-bill, the promise of that, right? Well, just because it sounds safe, just because you're dealing with the U.S. government doesn't mean that you're not going to lose money on it, which is why the banks have over $500 billion of unrealized losses on their balance sheets. And then this is where Ripple has that competitive advantage because they have XRP on their balance sheet with no cost basis. So at any price point, they're in green and they have a very good supply of it, right? So I'm going to talk about this more in a separate video about the potential for XRP to back the US dollar, Ripple's US dollar, and how this will actually give Ripple an advantage in the stablecoin market. But I'm going to talk more about that in a separate video. But to summarize this clip here from Monica Long, is XRP needed? Not necessarily all the time, but where it is needed, it is one of the best solutions, if not the best solution for cross-border payments between corridors with not much liquidity. Even for corridors with high liquidity, these institutions can remove the need to pre-fund, which is solving trillion-dollar problems for these banks and institutions by using on-demand liquidity in XRP. So I just wanted to cover this one because I was listening to this interview, and when she first said, XRP is not needed, I said, "Oh, you're not. Don't say that, okay? Don't say that. Say XRP might not be the best solution, but that hurt a little bit." But that's all right. And if you're going to be an adult with your investments, particularly if you're not going to be emotional about your investments, you got to be willing to ask these questions. You got to be willing to have these arguments poked in your thesis. And, we don't want to just fill them back up with fluff and by putting on the blinders and saying, no, XRP is going to get all the money. No, I've never believed that. I believe that XRP Ledger is ready for all tokenized forms of value to come onto it. I think it's going to be a great ledger for that. And I think it's going to be one of the best sources of liquidity in the world. That's my thesis. The next part about that is that not only is Ripple holding it as a reserve, I'm holding it as a reserve. And I think that many other people are going to hold XRP as a reserve on their balance sheet. BitBoy Crypto said gold's better than Bitcoin. Well, I think XRP is better than both. So you guys let me know in the comments down below what you think. If you appreciate this update, please make sure you like this video. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. God bless you all. I am your host, Zach Rector. I really appreciate all of the love and support. If you want to support the channel, just remember that you can start by smashing that thumbs up for me, sharing this content far and wide, and everything else is at my website.